The coffee scalds Maya Torres's face, deliberately thrown by Gunnery Sergeant Kane Barrett, who towers over her 5 feet 4 inches frame like a predator savoring the kill. "Medics belong in the rear with the gear," he snarls, while 12 Force Recon Marines laugh, their mockery echoing off concrete walls. "Stop wasting our time pretending you're an operator." At 26, she's the youngest combat medic ever assigned to elite forces, and Barrett has made destroying her his personal crusade. Maya stands motionless, coffee dripping from her chin, refusing to give him the satisfaction of tears. But in 48 hours, she'll be elbow-deep in his guts, performing impossible surgery under enemy fire, and the skills she's been hiding will save the life of the man determined to break her. If you want to see how a woman half their size proves she's twice the warrior these men think they are, hit that subscribe button right now. This story goes places you won't believe, and I need you here for every twist. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far Maya's story travels. Now let's get back to that briefing room where her nightmare is just beginning. Maya's hands trembled as she wiped the coffee from her face with the back of her sleeve. The liquid had already soaked through her blouse, the fabric clinging to her skin where it burned. She didn't cry out, didn't give Barrett the satisfaction, just stood there, meeting his eyes with a steady gaze that seemed to infuriate him more than tears ever could. "Something to say, Staff Sergeant?" Barrett leaned in close enough that she could smell the tobacco on his breath, the stale coffee that now stained her uniform. "No? Good, because I got plenty to say." He straightened up, addressing the room now, his voice carrying that command authority that made junior Marines snap to attention. "Gentlemen, Command in their infinite wisdom has decided we need a babysitter for our patrol into Sector 9. This," he gestured at Maya with barely concealed disgust, "is apparently the best they could do."
Corporal Danny Reeves, a wiry kid from Alabama who couldn't have been more than 22, snickered from the back row. "LT, my little sister's tougher than this. Can we trade?" The laughter that followed felt like acid in Maya's stomach. She'd been through 8 weeks of this. 8 weeks of accidentally destroyed gear, of being left off patrol rosters, of conversations that went silent when she entered a room. But this was different. This was public humiliation, sanctioned by the teen leader himself. "Barrett?" The voice cut through the laughter like a blade. Lieutenant Marcus Vega stood in the doorway, his dark eyes taking in the scene. The coffee stain spreading across Maya's uniform, the circle of Marines, Barrett's aggressive stance. A word. Outside. Now.
Barrett's jaw tightened, but he followed Vega into the hallway. Through the thin walls, Maya could hear the heated exchange. "I don't care what your personal feelings are about women in combat. This isn't about gender, Lieutenant. It's about capability. She's going to get good men killed." She scored expert marksman on the range, perfect score on the combat lifesaver course, top of her class in book learning doesn't mean shit when the bullets start flying. You know that. Maya forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly. The Marines in the room had gone quiet, some looking uncomfortable, others still grinning like this was the best entertainment they'd had all week. She bent down to pick up her notepad that had fallen when Barrett threw the coffee, her fingers finally steady. That's when she noticed Staff Sergeant Eric Mitchell watching her from the corner. Dr. Mitchell, they called him, the senior Navy corpsman attached to the battalion. He was older than the others, maybe 40, with the kind of weathered face that spoke of too many deployments. His eyes were different from the rest, calculating, curious. He'd been watching her for weeks now, she realized. Not with hostility, but with something else. Recognition, maybe, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Barrett stormed back into the room, Vega close behind. "All right, listen up," Vega announced. "Mission brief in 5.
Torres, get yourself cleaned up. Sir, I'm fine to. That's an order, Staff Sergeant. Maya nodded, grabbing her gear and heading for the door. As she passed Barrett, he leaned in, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Tomorrow we're going into bad country, Taliban territory. You're going to fold, Torres, and when you do, when you're crying and puking and begging us to take you home, I'm going to make sure everyone knows that women don't belong in Force Recon. She stopped, turned to face him. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Something cold and hard that made Barrett's confident sneer falter. Then it was gone, replaced by the same quiet composure she always showed. "We'll see, Gunny," she said softly. "We'll see."
The woman's head was empty when Maya pushed through the door, grateful for the solitude. She peeled off her coffee-soaked blouse, the fabric sticking to her skin. The burn wasn't bad. She'd had worse. Much worse. Her eyes found the mirror, found her reflection. 26 years old, and she looked younger, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and brown eyes that people always called soft, gentle. They had no idea what those eyes had seen. She turned slightly, catching sight of the scar on her left rib cage. 4 inches long, precise and surgical. The kind of scar that had a story, the kind she'd been ordered never to tell. "You're late for the scrub-in, Torres. The colonel's going to have your ass." "I'm a medic, not a surgeon. Today, you're whatever we need you to be. Now move." Maya closed her eyes, pushing the memory down. That was another life. Another name, almost. She'd been given a choice 3 years ago. Disappear into the regular military, or face a court-martial for a mission that went sideways. The mission that never officially happened. The operation that killed 6 of her team and left her with this scar and a sealed file that would follow her forever. She'd chosen to disappear, to be just another medic, to hide the advanced trauma training, the combat experience, the classified surgical techniques she'd learned in places that didn't exist on any map. But Barrett was right about one thing. Tomorrow they were going into bad country, and when the bullets started flying, when good men were bleeding out in the dirt, she wasn't sure she could keep hiding who she really was. A sharp knock startled her. "Torres, you in there?" She recognized the voice. Doc Mitchell. "Yeah, Doc, just changing." "Mind if I wait? Need to talk to you." Maya pulled on a fresh blouse, tucked it in, checked herself in the mirror. Professional. Unremarkable. Just another medic. She opened the door. Doc Mitchell leaned against the wall outside, his arms crossed. Up close, she could see the scars on his hands, the kind you got from emergency field surgery under fire. He was studying her with that same curious expression. "That was a shitty thing Barrett did," he said, without preamble. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." He pushed off the wall, lowering his voice. "Look, I've been in this game a long time, seen a lot of medics come and go. Most of them are adequate. Some are good. A rare few are exceptional." He paused. "You pack your aid bag different than the others." Maya's heart rate picked up, but she kept her expression neutral. "Everyone has their own system?" "True, but most medics don't carry ketamine in their personal kit. Most don't have arterial clamps that cost more than my monthly pay. And I've never, not once in 22 years, seen a regular medic test their tourniquets with that specific twisting motion." She said nothing. Couldn't trust her voice not to give her away. "That's a special operations medical technique," Mitchell continued quietly. "SARC. Ranger medic. PJ. One of those." His eyes searched hers. "I'm not asking you to break any NDAs or tell me anything classified. I just need to know. When things go bad tomorrow, and they will go bad, can you handle it?" The question hung between them. Maya thought about lying, about deflecting. But this man had seen too much, knew too much, and he was asking for the right reasons. "I can handle it," she said simply. Mitchell nodded slowly. "Good, because I've read the intel on tomorrow's patrol route. Sector 9's been quiet for 3 weeks. Too quiet. If I'm right, we're walking into a hornet's nest, and Barrett's ego is going to get people killed if someone doesn't watch our 6. "You think it's an ambush?" "I think the Taliban aren't stupid. They've been watching our patrol patterns, and tomorrow's route is predictable as hell." He met her eyes. "I think you might be the only one on this team who's actually ready for what's coming." Before Maya could respond, voices echoed down the hallway. Mitchell straightened, his expression going neutral. "Mission brief starting. Better get moving." The briefing room had been rearranged, chairs set up in rows facing a large map of the operational area. Maya took a seat in the back, hyper-aware of the eyes that followed her, the whispers that stopped when she got close enough to hear. Lieutenant Vega stood at the front, waiting for everyone to settle. He was a good officer, Maya had learned. Fair, competent, but young, maybe 30 at most. This was his first command billet, and he was still learning how to manage the massive personalities that came with Force Recon. "All right, here's the situation," Vega began, tapping the map. "Command wants us to run a presence patrol through Sector 9. Show the flag, engage with local nationals, gather intelligence on Taliban activity in the area." Sergeant Jake Morrison, Barrett's second-in-command, raised his hand. "Sir, Sector 9's been quiet lately. Why poke the bear?" "Because quiet isn't always good. Intelligence suggests the Taliban are regrouping, possibly planning something. We need eyes on the ground." Vega traced their route with his finger. "We'll roll out at 0600, 4 vehicles, standard patrol formation. First stop is the village of Karam. Local elders been cooperative in the past, might have actionable intel." Maya studied the map, her trained eye picking up details the others might miss. The route took them through a narrow valley, the Tangji Valley locals called it. High ground on both sides, limited egress points. Classic ambush terrain. She raised her hand. Vega looked surprised but nodded. "Torres?" "Sir, the route through Tangji Valley," she pointed at the map. "It's a natural choke point. If I were planning an ambush, that's where I'd do it. Have we considered an alternate route?" The room went silent. Barrett's laugh broke the tension like a hammer through glass. "Oh, this is rich. The medic wants to play tactician now." He turned in his seat to face her. "Torres, stick to your lane. Leave the operational planning to people who actually know what they're doing." "I'm just pointing out," "You're pointing out that you don't understand the first thing about Force Recon operations." Barrett stood, walking to the map. "Yeah, it's a choke point. That's why it's also the fastest route. We go around, we add 3 hours to the patrol. 3 hours of exposure, 3 hours of fuel consumption, 3 hours more the enemy has to spot us and plan an attack." He looked back at her. "But I wouldn't expect a medic to understand tactical considerations." Maya bit back her response. Arguing would only make it worse. Vega stepped in. "Barrett's right that the alternate route has drawbacks, but Torres makes a valid point about the terrain." He looked at Barrett. "We'll maintain heightened alert through the valley. I want air cover on standby and QRF ready to roll if we hit contact." Barrett's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Roger that, sir." The brief continued, but Maya barely heard it. She was too busy running scenarios in her head. Ambush from the high ground. IED on the valley floor. Coordinated attack with multiple elements. She'd seen it all before, in places her current teammates would never know about. When Vega dismissed them, Maya hung back, waiting for the room to clear. But Barrett had the same idea. He intercepted her at the door, his bulk blocking her exit. "Let me make something crystal clear," he said, his voice low and dangerous. I don't care what you think you know about tactics or terrain or anything else. Tomorrow, you keep your mouth shut, you stay in your vehicle, and you do your job when someone gets hurt. That's it. You don't offer opinions, you don't question my decisions. You damn sure don't undermine my authority in front of the men. I wasn't trying to. I don't care what you were trying to do. I care about what happens when you make my Marines doubt their leadership. He stepped closer. You want to know why I'm hard on you? It's not because you're a woman. It's because you're a liability. You're weak. You're untested. And you don't belong here. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd dealt with men like Barrett before, men who saw competence in women as a threat to their own masculinity, men who would rather die than admit a woman might be better at something than they were. Gunny, she said quietly, I'm not your enemy. You're right. You're not important enough to be my enemy. You're just a problem I have to manage until you wash out, or transfer, or get yourself killed. He leaned in. My money's on tomorrow. First time you hear gunfire, you're going to freeze, and I'm going to have to pull men off the line to babysit you. He walked away, leaving Maya alone in the briefing room. She stood there for a long moment, fists clenched at her sides, breathing slowly through her nose. She couldn't afford to lose control, couldn't afford to let him see how much his words cut. Because that's what men like Barrett wanted, to break you down, to prove they were right about you all along. But Maya Torres had been broken before. 3 years ago, in a field hospital that didn't officially exist, with a superior officer bleeding out on her table and 6 teammates dead. She'd been broken and put back together, and the woman who emerged from that fire was stronger than Barrett could possibly imagine. Tomorrow, he'd find out just how strong. The armory was Maya's next stop. She needed to check her rifle, make sure her gear was squared away. But when she arrived, she found Corporal Amy Chen already there, methodically cleaning her M4. Chen was the only other woman in the company, 23 years old, built like a gymnast, with a quiet intensity that reminded Maya of herself at that age. She'd been friendly in a cautious way, like she wanted to reach out, but was afraid of the social cost. Hey, Chen said, looking up. Heard about the coffee thing. That was messed up. Maya shrugged, moving to her locker. It's fine. It's not fine. It's bullshit. Chen set down her cleaning rod. You know half the guys on the team can't shoot as well as you. I saw your qualification scores. But Barrett acts like you can barely hold a rifle. Barrett acts like a lot of things that aren't true. Chen was quiet for a moment, then, Can I ask you something? Maya pulled out her aid bag, started inventorying supplies. Sure. Why do you let them treat you like that? Why don't you fight back? It was a fair question, one Maya had asked herself 100 times. Maya checked her advanced supplies, the ones she kept hidden in specially modified pouches. Hemostatic agents that could stop arterial bleeding in seconds. Surgical instruments that technically weren't authorized for field medics. The small vial of ketamine that Doc Mitchell had noticed. Torres? Chen's voice was hesitant. If something happens tomorrow, if it goes bad, I just want you to know, some of us don't think like Barrett. Some of us are glad you're here. Maya looked up, surprised by the emotion in the younger woman's voice. Thanks, Chen. That means more than you know. I mean it. My brother's a medic, Navy corpsman, deployed to Fallujah in 2004. He said the best combat medic he ever worked with was a woman. Said she saved his life twice, and the Marines who gave her shit at first ended up carrying her off the field on their shoulders when her tour ended. Chen paused. He said women who make it through the gauntlet, who earn their place despite everything stacked against them, they're the toughest warriors in the fight. Maya felt an unexpected lump in her throat. Your brother sounds like a smart guy. He is, He also said that if I ever worked with a medic who packed their gear the way you do, I should stick close to them when things get hairy. Chen smiled slightly. He's seen some things, knows the difference between a regular medic and something else. The implication hung in the air. Maya didn't confirm or deny anything, just went back to her inventory. But she felt Chen's eyes on her, curious and respectful in a way Barrett's never were. "You should get some rest," Maya said finally. "Long day tomorrow." "Yeah, you too." Chen stood, slinging her rifle. At the door, she paused. "Hey, Torres? Give him hell tomorrow." After Chen left, Maya finished her preparations in silence. Every piece of equipment had its place. Every supply triple-checked. This was ritual, meditation, the thing that kept her grounded when the chaos came. And the chaos was coming. She could feel it in her bones, that electric tingle of premonition that had kept her alive through 3 deployments and 1 classified nightmare she'd never be allowed to discuss. Tomorrow, in the Tangi Valley, everything would change. Barrett's prejudice would meet hard reality. The team's assumptions about her would shatter, and the secrets she'd been hiding for 3 years would bleed out into the Afghan dirt, along with whoever got hurt. Maya closed her eyes, steadied her breathing, thought about the last time she'd done emergency surgery under fire. The screaming, the blood, the impossible choice between 2 patients who both needed her right now, and the brutal calculus that meant someone died while she saved someone else. "I'm not that person anymore," she whispered to the empty armory, but she knew it was a lie. She'd always be that person, the warrior hiding behind the medic's cross, the surgeon who'd learned to cut and shoot with equal precision. Tomorrow, Gunnery Sergeant Kane Barrett would learn the truth about Maya Torres. He just didn't know it would be with his intestines spilling out in her hands, and his life depending on the woman he'd spent 2 months trying to break. The irony was almost enough to make her smile. Almost. The mess hall at 1900 hours was controlled chaos. 200 Marines trying to eat dinner, decompress, pretend they weren't all thinking about tomorrow's patrol. Maya grabbed a tray, loaded it with something that might have been meatloaf, and scanned for an empty seat. She found one in the corner, isolated. Perfect. She'd barely taken 3 bites when someone upended a bottle of hot sauce over her tray. Red liquid pooled across her food, turning everything into an inedible mess. "Oops," Lance Corporal Brad Dixon grinned, high-fiving Corporal Reeves. "Thought you could use some spice, Torres. Gotta toughen up that soft medic stomach for tomorrow." The table erupted in laughter. Maya set down her fork carefully, precisely. Didn't look up. Didn't give them the satisfaction. Dixon wasn't done. "What's wrong? Can't handle a little heat? Maybe Barrett's right. Maybe you should transfer to the admin section, answer phones, make coffee." He leaned down. "Oh, wait. You're already good at wearing coffee." More laughter. Maya could feel eyes on her. Doc Mitchell stood there, 2 MREs in his hands. He held one out. "Figured you didn't get to eat much." When she didn't take it, he added, "It's the chili mac. Good one." Maya's throat was tight, but she managed, "I'm not hungry." "Bullshit. You need calories before tomorrow. This is going to be a long patrol, and if Mitchell's right about the ambush..." He pressed the MRE into her hands. "Eat. That's an order from a senior NCO." They sat on the concrete barrier outside the mess hall. The night was clear, stars brilliant in the Afghan sky. Maya opened the MRE mechanically, heating the pouch with hands that had finally stopped shaking. 22 years I've been doing this," Mitchell said quietly. "You know what I've learned? The worst warriors are always the loudest. They talk the most shit, make the most noise, because deep down they're terrified they're not good enough. He paused. Barrett's scared of you. Maya almost laughed. Barrett's not scared of anything. He's scared you'll make him look bad. Scared the men will see you do something he can't. Scared that if a woman can be as good as him, it means he's not as special as he thinks. Mitchell ate a mouthful of his own MRE. I've seen his type before. They don't last. Something happens, combat, peacetime, doesn't matter, and the facade cracks. Then you see who they really are underneath. And what if he's right? The question came out before Maya could stop it. What if I do freeze up tomorrow? What if I'm not ready? Mitchell looked at her for a long moment. You want to know how I know you're not a regular medic? She waited. 2 weeks ago, I watched you run a trauma scenario during training. Young Marine, simulated sucking chest wound. You had him stabilized in under 90 seconds. But it wasn't just the speed. It was the way you moved. Economy of motion, no wasted movement. That's not something you learn in a schoolhouse. He met her eyes. That's something you earn in the field, under fire, when the outcome matters. Maya said nothing, but something in her expression must have confirmed his suspicion. I don't need to know the details, Mitchell continued. Your file's sealed tighter than Fort Knox, and I respect that. But I need you to understand something. Tomorrow, when this goes sideways, you're going to be the difference between men going home in body bags or going home to their families. He stood, brushing off his pants. So get your head right. Remember who you are. And when the moment comes, don't hesitate. He walked away, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts and a half-eaten MRE. Don't hesitate. Easy to say. Harder to do when hesitation had cost her 6 teammates 3 years ago. When the choices she'd made in that field hospital had saved some and doomed others. When the weight of those decisions still woke her up at night, gasping for air, feeling phantom blood on her hands. But Mitchell was right about one thing. Tomorrow would come whether she was ready or not. And when the bullets started flying, when good men were dying, she'd have to choose. Maintain the comfortable lie of being just a medic, or embrace the dangerous truth of who she really was. A warrior who'd learned to heal because the alternative, watching brothers and sisters die when she could have saved them, was unbearable. Maya finished her MRE, cleaned up her trash, and headed for her quarters. She had 6 hours to sleep, 6 hours to prepare mentally for what was coming. It wasn't enough time. It never was. But it would have to do. At 200, Maya gave up on sleep. She pulled on her PT gear and went for a run, needing to move, to think, to process. The FOB was quiet at this hour, just the sounds of generators and the occasional guard patrol. She ran the perimeter, pushing herself harder than necessary, punishing herself maybe, or preparing herself. The line between the two had always been blurry. When she finished, drenched in sweat despite the cold, she found someone sitting on the steps of her barracks. Barrett. He looked up as she approached, and even in the dim light, she could see he was drunk. Not stumbling, but there was a looseness to his movements that spoke of too much whiskey. "Torres," he said, the words slightly slurred. "Can't sleep either?" She stopped a cautious distance away. "Gunny, you should get some rest." "Should do a lot of things." He stood, swaying slightly. "Should probably not be drinking before a mission. Should probably not be sitting outside the women's barracks at 0:30. Should probably not be thinking about all the ways you're going to get my Marines killed tomorrow." Maya's jaw tightened. "I'm not going to get anyone killed." "You sure about that?" He descended the steps, moving closer. Because I've been doing this for 15 years. 15 years of combat, of leading men through hell. And you know what I've learned? Weakness gets people killed. Hesitation gets people killed. And you, he jabbed a finger at her, you're both. You don't know anything about me. Barrett laughed, bitter and harsh. I know enough. I know you got assigned here because of some diversity quota bullshit. I know you've never been in a real firefight. I know that when things go bad tomorrow, you're going to freeze up, and someone's going to die trying to protect you. He was close now, close enough that she could smell the alcohol on his breath, close enough that her training was screaming at her to create distance, establish a defensive posture. But she held her ground. Is that what you really think? She asked quietly. Or is that what you need to think to justify how you've treated me? Something flickered in Barrett's eyes. Uncertainty, maybe, or recognition of a truth he didn't want to face. I think, he started, then stopped, swayed again. I think you're going to prove me right tomorrow. And then maybe Command will stop this nonsense about women in combat units. And if you're wrong? If I don't freeze? If I do my job and do it well? Barrett's face hardened. Won't happen. It never does with your kind. My kind? The words hung between them like a challenge. Maya could have responded with anger, with indignation, could have reported him, filed a complaint, made his life difficult. Instead, she just looked at him with something like pity. Get some sleep, Gunny. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. She walked past him into the barracks, leaving him swaying on the steps. Through the door, she heard him mutter, Damn right it will be. Inside, Maya finally let herself shake, not from fear of Barrett, but from the realization of how deep his prejudice ran. This wasn't just casual sexism or military hazing. This was something darker. A need to prove her worthless that bordered on obsessive. Which meant tomorrow, when everything went to hell, Barrett might make decisions based on ego rather than tactics. Might put the team at risk just to prove she didn't belong. That terrified her more than any Taliban ambush. Because if Barrett's pride got Marines killed, those deaths would haunt her forever. And she already had too many ghosts. Maya stripped off her PT gear, showered quickly, and dressed in her combat uniform. 0400 hours now. 2 hours until rollout. She made coffee, strong and black, and sat on her bunk with her aid bag. One more inventory. One more check. Her hands found the hidden compartments, the supplies she'd smuggled from her old life, the ketamine, the arterial clamps, the surgical instruments wrapped in sterile packaging. Tools she'd sworn she'd never use again. Tools that might be the only thing keeping Marines alive tomorrow. Forgive me, she whispered to ghosts only she could see. The teammates who'd died 3 years ago. The patients she couldn't save. The woman she'd been before the world taught her that sometimes healing required cutting, and sometimes saving one life meant letting another slip away. Tomorrow, in the Tangi Valley, Maya Torres would stop hiding. Tomorrow, Gunnery Sergeant Kane Barrett would learn that the medic he'd tried to break was the only thing standing between him and death. Tomorrow, the truth would come out in blood and fire, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Blackhawks' rotors beat the air like a war drum at 0545 hours, but Maya was already geared up, standing beside the 4 Humvees that would carry them into Sector 9. Her aid bag weighed 40 pounds, her rifle another 8, body armor and ammunition pushing the total north of 70. She'd carried more, had run 6 miles with more. But her hands still trembled as she checked her magazine for the 5th time. You good, Torres? Doc Mitchell appeared beside her, his own gear squared away with the efficiency of 2 decades in the teams. Yeah, Doc. Good to go. He studied her face, seemed about to say something, then just nodded. Stay sharp out there. Barrett emerged from the operations center, his swagger back despite whatever demons the whiskey had unleashed last night. He looked at Maya and his lip curled, but he said nothing, just pointed at the fourth Humvee. Torres, you're in tail end Charlie with Dixon, Reeves, and Martinez. The worst position. The most vulnerable vehicle, of course. Maya shouldered her gear and moved to the assigned Humvee. Dixon grinned at her from the driver's seat. Try not to puke when things get exciting, Doc. Just drive, Dixon. Martinez, the vehicle commander, was older than the others, 35 maybe, with kind eyes and a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. He helped Maya secure her gear without comment, then caught her eye. Don't let them get to you, he said quietly. Half of them are just scared kids playing tough. And the other half? Actually are tough. Martinez smiled grimly. But tough doesn't always mean smart. You keep your head on a swivel, watch the high ground, and if things go sideways, you do your job. That's all anyone can ask. The convoy rolled out at 0600 sharp, 4 Humvees cutting through the dawn light toward the mountains. Maya watched the FOB disappear in the side mirror, replaced by Afghan landscape that could hide 1,000 threats. The villages they passed were already awake, women hauling water, children chasing chickens, men watching the American convoy with expressions that revealed nothing. Look at them, Reeves muttered from the turret. Probably Taliban sympathizers, every single one. Or just people trying to survive, Maya said, before she could stop herself. Reeves looked down at her. What would you know about it, Torres? You even been outside the wire before today? She bit back the response that wanted to come, that she'd done 3 combat deployments before her official file was sanitized, that she'd treated Afghan children injured by IEDs, had held crying mothers who'd lost sons to violence they didn't understand, that she'd learned to speak Pashto specifically so she could talk to patients about their pain, their fear, their hope. But that was classified. That was the old Maya, the ghost who supposedly died 3 years ago. Just saying people are people, Reeves. Not everyone's the enemy. Yeah, well, the ones who are enemy don't wear signs. They look just like everyone else. He went back to scanning the terrain. That's what makes them dangerous. The radio crackled. Barrett's voice. All vehicles, entering Sector 9. Weapons hot, eyes open. First waypoint is the village of Karam, ETA 20 mics. Maya's stomach tightened. 20 minutes to the village. Then they'd continue to the Tangji Valley, the choke point she'd warned about in the briefing. The place where Doc Mitchell thought they'd get hit. The place where everything would change. Martinez must have sensed her tension. First patrol's always rough. Gets easier. This isn't my first patrol, Maya said, then immediately regretted it. Martinez raised an eyebrow. No? Barrett said you were fresh out of school. Barrett says a lot of things. True enough. Martinez checked his rifle. Well, if you've done this before, you know the drill. Stay alert. Don't be a hero. And if you hear me yell, contact, you get your head down and let us handle the shooting. But Maya had already spotted something. A flash of light from the ridgeline. There and gone. Could be nothing. Could be a signal mirror. Taliban spotters communicating. Martinez, 2 o'clock high, about 300 meters. Did you see that flash? He swung his rifle around, scanning. I don't see anything. It was just for a second, like reflected sunlight off glass or metal. Martinez keyed his radio. Lead, this is Charlie. Possible spotter on the ridgeline. Grid reference. Barrett's voice cut him off. Charlie, maintain radio discipline. We don't report every rock and dust cloud. Martinez looked at Maya, frustrated. She shrugged. What could they do? Barrett was running the show.
and he'd made it clear he didn't value her input. The village of Karam appeared ahead, maybe 40 structures clustered around a central square.
The convoy slowed, pulling into a defensive formation. Barrett and Lieutenant Vega dismounted, along with an interpreter, to speak with the village elder. Maya watched through the Humvee's window as the elder approached, an old man with a white beard and cautious eyes. The conversation seemed cordial at first, Vega speaking through the interpreter, asking about Taliban activity in the area. But then Barrett stepped forward, his body language aggressive, demanding. The elder's expression shifted from cautious to closed off. Whatever rapport Vega had been building, Barrett was destroying it with his approach. "Idiot," Martinez muttered. "You don't win hearts and minds by acting like an occupying force." Maya made a decision. "Martinez, I need to get out." "What? Why?" "Because there are women watching from the houses, and they won't talk to male Marines, but they might talk to me." She grabbed her aid bag. "Medical stuff, building trust." Martinez hesitated, then nodded. "Keep me in visual. And Torres, be careful." Maya dismounted, immediately feeling a dozen eyes on her. She approached the nearest house slowly, hands visible, aid bag clearly marked with the Red Cross. A woman stood in the doorway, maybe 40, with 3 children clustered behind her. "Salam alaikum," Maya said, the Pashto flowing naturally. "I am a doctor. I help people. Do you or your children need medicine?" The woman's eyes widened in surprise at hearing her own language from an American. She glanced toward where the men were gathered, then back at Maya. "My daughter," she said quietly. "She is sick. Fever for 3 days." "May I see her?" The woman hesitated, then stepped aside. Maya entered the dim house, letting her eyes adjust. A girl, maybe 8 years old, lay on a mat in the corner. Maya knelt beside her, felt her forehead. Hot. Too hot. She pulled out her thermometer, checked the reading. 104 degrees. Not good. Could be anything from malaria to a simple infection, but left untreated, it could kill. "How long has she been like this?" Maya asked, pulling out antibiotics and fever reducers from her aid bag. 3 days. The fever comes and goes." Maya administered the medication, showing the mother how much to give and when. As she worked, she asked gently, "Have you seen men with weapons in the area? Not your village men, but outsiders?" The woman's face closed off. "I see nothing. I know nothing. I understand. I'm not asking you to tell the soldiers. I'm asking because if there are dangerous men nearby, I want to keep you and your children safe." The woman studied her for a long moment. Then, so quietly Maya almost missed it. "They came 2 days ago. 20 men, maybe more. They took food and water. Said the Americans would pay soon for their crimes." Maya's heart rate spiked. "Did they say when? Where?" But the woman shook her head. "That is all I know. Please, you must go." "If they see me talking to you, I understand. Thank you." Maya stood, giving the woman extra medication. "For your daughter, may Allah protect you and your family." Outside, she moved quickly back to the Humvee, her mind racing. 20 fighters, 2 days ago, planning something. This wasn't paranoia or speculation, this was intelligence, and Barrett needed to hear it. She found him still arguing with the village elder, his face red with frustration. Vega looked uncomfortable, trying to smooth things over. "Gunny," Maya said, approaching, "I need to speak with you." Barrett turned, his expression darkening. "Torres, get back to your vehicle." "Sir, I have intelligence from—" "I don't remember asking for intelligence from a medic." He stepped toward her. "I remember ordering you to stay in your vehicle and keep your mouth shut." "But Gunny, the local women said—" "The local women?" Barrett's laugh was harsh. "You went into a house? Without security? Without authorization?" He looked at Lieutenant Vega. "Sir, this is exactly what I was talking about. She's a liability." Vega looked conflicted. "Torres, what did you learn?" Maya spoke quickly before Barrett could interrupt again. "A woman told me that 20 fighters came through 2 days ago. They took supplies and said the Americans would pay soon. Sir, I think Doc Mitchell was right. This is a setup." Barrett snorted. "And you believed her? Torres, these people lie to us constantly. They tell us what they think we want to hear, or they make shit up to get free medical supplies." He turned to Vega. "Sir, we're wasting time. The route's clear. We're on schedule. Let's roll." Vega studied Maya for a moment. She could see him weighing her information against Barrett's experience, against the pressure to complete the mission on time. "We'll proceed," Vega said finally. "But everyone stays alert." "Torres, good initiative on the intelligence gathering, but next time coordinate with me before going off on your own." "Yes, sir." Barrett's face was apoplectic. "Sir, you're not actually going to validate—" "I said we're proceeding, Gunny. Mount up." The convoy rolled out 5 minutes later, heading toward the Tangi Valley. Maya sat in the back of the Humvee, her stomach in knots. She'd tried. She'd warned them. But Barrett's ego had won out over good sense, and now they were driving straight into what could be an ambush. Martinez looked back at her. "That took guts, what you did. Standing up to Barrett like that." "Lot of good it did." "Maybe, maybe not." He checked his rifle again. "But at least now we're all on high alert. That might make the difference." The terrain changed as they entered the valley. The road narrowed, high ground rising on both sides. Perfect ambush territory. Maya could feel it in her bones, that electric tingle of premonition. "I don't like this," Dixon muttered from the driver's seat. "Too quiet. Where are all the people?" He was right. The valley should have had goat herders, travelers, local traffic, but it was empty. Eerily so. Reeves called down from the turret. "Hey, Martinez, you seeing what I'm seeing? No civvies anywhere." "I see it. Stay sharp." The radio crackled. Barrett's voice. "All vehicles, tight formation, watch your sectors." At least he was taking the threat seriously, even if he wouldn't admit it came from her intelligence. They were halfway through the valley when Maya saw it. A section of road that looked wrong. The dirt was disturbed, recently smoothed over. Too perfect. "Martinez, stop the vehicle!" "What? Why?" "That dirt ahead. It's been disturbed. Could be an IED." Martinez hesitated. "I don't see anything." "Trust me, that pattern, the way it's been smoothed, I've seen it before." Martinez keyed his radio. "Lead, this is Charlie." Torres spotted possible IED on the road ahead, approximately. The world exploded. Not where Maya had been looking, but under the second vehicle. The IED detonated with a force that lifted the multi-ton Humvee off the ground, flipping it onto its side. The sound was overwhelming, a physical pressure that made Maya's ears ring even through her helmet. Then the mountains erupted with gunfire. Bullets snapped through the air like angry hornets, impacting against their Humvee's armor with metallic pings. Reeves returned fire from the turret, his machine gun roaring. "Contact! Contact! 360 degrees!" Martinez was shouting into the radio, but the chaos made it hard to hear anything. Maya was already moving, unbuckling, grabbing her aid bag. The flipped vehicle had people inside. People who were hurt. People who needed her. "Torres, stay in the vehicle!" Martinez yelled. But she was already out, hitting the ground running in a crouch. Bullets kicked up dirt around her feet, and some detached part of her brain noted the distinctive crack of AK-47s, mixing with the heavier thump of PKM machine guns. The ambush was well coordinated, professional. She reached the overturned Humvee, and her heart sank. Flames were already licking at the fuel tank, and she could see movement inside. Someone trapped.
Someone alive. Doc Mitchell appeared beside her, his face grim. "Two inside, Peterson and Kowalski. We need to get them out now before this thing cooks off." Together they dove through the twisted doorframe. The heat was intense, smoke filling the small space. Peterson was conscious, screaming as flames burned his legs. Kowalski was unconscious, blood streaming from a head wound. "I'll take Peterson," Mitchell shouted. "You get Kowalski." They worked in tandem, dragging the wounded Marines clear of the vehicle. Maya had just gotten Kowalski to safety when the fuel tank ignited, the explosion throwing her forward.
She covered Kowalski with her body as shrapnel whistled overhead. When the ringing in her ears subsided enough to hear, someone was screaming for a medic. Then another voice. Then another. Multiple casualties, multiple critical patients, and the firefight was intensifying. Maya did rapid triage on Kowalski. Head wound, bleeding, but not arterial, stable enough for now. She moved to Peterson, whose legs were badly burned. "You're going to be okay," she told him, pulling out burn dressings. "Second degree, maybe some third. Painful as hell, but you'll keep the legs." "It hurts," Peterson gasped. "God, it hurts." "I know. I'm giving you morphine now." She administered the painkiller, working quickly to dress the burns. "You did good, Marine. You're going to be fine." Another call. "Medic! Lead vehicle! We need a medic!" Maya's blood went cold. The lead vehicle. That was Barrett's Humvee. She grabbed her aid bag and ran, staying low as bullets continued to snap overhead. The Marines had formed a defensive perimeter, returning fire with disciplined precision, but the Taliban had the high ground and numbers. She reached the lead vehicle and found Barrett lying half out of the commander's hatch. An RPG had detonated against the vehicle's armor. The armor had held, but the spalling, fragments of metal blown off the inside, had done terrible damage. Barrett's abdomen was torn open, his intestines visible, blood pooling beneath him. His eyes, filled with contempt just hours ago, now held only terror. "Help me," he gasped. "Please, Torres, help me." Maya's hands moved automatically, assessing the damage. It was catastrophic. The kind of wound that killed men while their buddies watched helplessly. He needed a surgeon, needed an operating room, needed equipment she didn't have. But she'd seen worse, had fixed worse, in places that didn't officially exist, with techniques that weren't in any textbook. She pulled out her advanced supplies, the ones Doc Mitchell had noticed. The ketamine went in first, just enough to dull the pain without knocking him out completely. "Listen to me, Barrett," she said, her voice cutting through his panic. "This is going to hurt worse than anything you've ever felt. But you're going to live. Do you understand me? You are going to live." His eyes met hers, and something passed between them. Understanding. Apology. Trust. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Torres, I'm so sorry." "Save your apologies. Focus on staying conscious. I need you to fight." Her hands worked with a speed and precision that spoke of training far beyond a regular combat medic. She packed the wound, clamped bleeders that should have been impossible to reach in field conditions. When she started suturing the intestines, a procedure that should have required an operating room, her hands never trembled, despite the bullets impacting inches away. Doc Mitchell appeared at her side, his eyes widening as he watched her work. "Jesus Christ, Torres. Where did you learn to do that?" "Long story. How are the others?" "Peterson's stable, Kowalski's stable. We've got 3 more wounded, but nothing immediately life-threatening." He paused. "Torres, we need to call in support. We're running low on ammo, and they've got us pinned down." Maya kept working on Barrett, her mind racing through options. She could hear Lieutenant Vega on the radio trying to reach headquarters, but the Taliban were jamming communications. They were cut off. Unless... She switched her radio to a frequency she hadn't used in 3 years, a frequency that officially didn't exist. Firehawk 6, this is Ghost 7-1. Troops in contact. Danger close fire mission. Grid reference 38 Romeo Quebec Mike 4521. How copy? The silence stretched. Then a voice she didn't recognize, confused but professional. Ghost 7-1, Firehawk 6. Authenticate. Maya rattled off an authentication code that should have been deleted from every database 3 years ago. Another pause, longer this time. Doc Mitchell was staring at her. Ghost 7-1? Torres, what the hell? Ghost 7-1, Firehawk 6. Rounds inbound, 30 seconds. Danger close confirmed. Get your people down. Maya keyed the radio to the tactical net. All red elements, take cover. Artillery inbound. Danger close. She threw herself over Barrett as the world turned to thunder and flame. The artillery barrage was precisely placed, walking up the ridgelines where the Taliban fighters had positioned themselves. Each round landed exactly where it would do maximum damage to the enemy while avoiding the convoy. It was the kind of fire direction that took years to master, the kind that came from calling in strikes while bullets whistled overhead and friends died around you. When the barrage lifted, the Taliban fire had slackened significantly, but Maya could hear their commanders shouting in Pashto, rallying for another assault. They were planning to rush the convoy, accepting casualties to overrun the Americans. She finished stabilizing Barrett, his vitals improving now that the immediate bleeding was controlled. He'd live if they could get him to a hospital. Big if. Torres. Barrett's voice was weak but clear. That call sign. Ghost 7-1. That's classified, she finished, and it stays that way. Who are you, really? Before Maya could answer, the Taliban launched their assault. Fighters poured down from the ridgelines, and the Marines' disciplined fire couldn't stop them all. They were going to be overrun. Maya grabbed the nearest rifle with a scope, an M110 semi-automatic sniper system, and found a firing position. Through the scope, she could see a Taliban fighter directing the assault, pointing and shouting orders. The shot would be difficult, 400 meters, uphill, through smoke and heat shimmer. But she'd made harder shots in worse conditions. She took a breath, let half out, and squeezed. The rifle bucked. 400 meters away, the Taliban commander dropped. The assault faltered as the fighters lost their leadership. Maya worked the bolt, finding another target. Another shot, another hit. She was operating on pure muscle memory now, the training from her old life taking over. Holy shit, Reeves breathed from somewhere behind her. Did you see that? Torres just dropped 2 targets at 400 meters. But there was no time for amazement. The Taliban were regrouping, and ammunition was running critically low. Maya made a decision that would haunt her dreams, but save lives. She pulled out a tactical tablet from her aid bag, another piece of equipment no regular medic would carry. All red elements, she broadcast. I'm marking enemy positions with IR laser. Keep your heads down. From her kit, she produced an infrared laser designator. She began painting Taliban positions, the invisible beam marking targets for something the enemy wouldn't see coming. High above, an AC-130 gunship that had been loitering just outside the operational area received new targeting data. Ghost 7-1, Spooky 4-1 has your sparkle. Cleared hot? Maya looked at her wounded comrades, at Barrett, who was still alive because of her, at the Marines who'd spent weeks making her life hell and were now depending on her to save them. Spooky 4-1, Ghost 7-1, cleared hot. Bring the rain. The gunship's weapons opened up,
the 25mm Gatling gun sounding like God's own chainsaw. The 40mm Bofors cannon added its steady thump, each round precisely placed following Maya's laser designation. The Taliban assault disintegrated under the overwhelming firepower. Fighters who moments before had been charging now scrambled for cover that didn't exist. "Dust off 3-3, 1 minute out," the medevac pilot called. "Hot LZ. Can you mark?" Maya threw an IR strobe, marking their position. The Black Hawk came in fast and hard, its door gunners laying down suppressive fire. The Marines formed a perimeter, wounded and healthy alike, everyone giving everything they had left. They loaded the casualties in order of severity. Barrett went first, still conscious enough to grab Maya's arm. "I was wrong about you," he whispered. "So wrong. I'm sorry." She squeezed his hand. "Save your strength, Gunny. Apologize properly when you're not holding your guts in." More helicopters arrived. Apaches providing cover, additional Blackhawks for the walking wounded. As they lifted off, Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. They were alive. All of them. Even the ones who'd hated her, humiliated her, tried to break her. She'd saved them anyway. Because that's what warriors did. The Black Hawk's interior smelled like blood and jet fuel, a combination Maya knew too well. Across from her, Corporal Dixon stared with an expression caught somewhere between shock and something that might have been shame. His eyes kept moving from her face to her hands, still covered in Barrett's blood, to the tactical tablet she'd used to call in fire support. "Those call signs," he said finally, having to shout over the rotors. "Ghost 7-1. That's not a regular medic designation." Maya met his gaze but said nothing. What could she say that wouldn't make things worse? "I heard stories," Dixon continued, "about a classified medical unit. Operators who could do surgery in the field, who trained with SEALs and Delta. They called them ghosts." He swallowed hard. "They said the whole unit got wiped out 3 years ago. Training accident." "Dixon, shut up!" Doc Mitchell's voice carried command authority. "You don't know what you're talking about." "But I saw what she did. That wasn't regular combat medicine, Doc. That was—" "I said shut up!" Mitchell looked at Maya, and she could see the question in his eyes. The same question everyone would be asking soon. Who was she really? The helicopter banked hard, beginning its descent toward the field hospital. Through the open door, Maya could see the landing zone already prepared, medical teams standing ready with gurneys and equipment. When they touched down, chaos erupted in that controlled way field hospitals had perfected. Doctors and nurses swarmed the wounded, assessing, triaging, moving with practiced efficiency. A surgeon, Major Reynolds, his name tape read, went straight to Barrett. He listened to Maya's report on the injuries and interventions, his expression growing more incredulous with each detail. "You performed a bowel repair under fire?" Reynolds pulled back Barrett's dressings, examining the sutures. "With basic field equipment?" "I used what I had, sir." Reynolds looked up at her, his eyes sharp behind his glasses. "Staff Sergeant, I've been a trauma surgeon for 20 years. This work," he gestured at Barrett's abdomen. "This is fellowship-level surgical technique. Where did you train?" Maya felt every eye on her. The medical staff, the Marines who'd been brought in, Doc Mitchell watching to see how she'd answer. "Various places, sir. I pick things up." "You don't pick this up," Reynolds straightened. "This is art. This is years of advanced training." He paused. "I need to know your background so we can properly follow up on your interventions." "Sir, I stabilized the patient in field conditions. The repair will hold until you can do a proper exploratory laparotomy. That's all that matters." Reynolds studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough.
But Torres, whoever trained you, they did one hell of a job. You saved this Marine's life against odds that should have been impossible." He turned back to Barrett, shouting orders to his team. Maya stepped away, trying to make herself invisible, but Lieutenant Vega was already approaching. "Torres, I need you to come with me. Colonel Rivera wants to see you immediately." Her stomach tightened. Colonel Sarah Rivera commanded the battalion, and a summons this quickly after the firefight couldn't mean anything good. "Sir, I should check on the other casualties first." "That's an order, Staff Sergeant." Maya followed Vega through the hospital corridors, her boots leaving bloody footprints on the concrete. Marines and medical staff stopped to stare as she passed, and she could hear the whispers starting. "That's her, the medic who called in the artillery. I heard she did field surgery on Barrett, saved his life. Someone said she's former special operations, like actually special operations." Vega led her to a small office and knocked once before opening the door. Colonel Rivera sat behind a desk, but she wasn't alone. A man in civilian clothes stood by the window, his back to them. Something about his posture screamed military, despite the khakis and polo shirt. "Staff Sergeant Torres reporting as ordered, ma'am." Rivera's expression was unreadable. "At ease, Torres. Lieutenant, you're dismissed." Vega hesitated. "Ma'am, Torres is one of my Marines. If there's an issue—" "I said dismissed, Lieutenant." After Vega left, the silence stretched until the man by the window finally turned around. Maya's breath caught. She knew that face. Had seen it. 3 years ago, in a briefing room, in a place that didn't officially exist. General Thomas Morrison, Deputy Director of Special Operations Command. The man who'd signed off on Operation Phantom Sunrise, the mission that killed 6 of her team and officially killed Maya Torres along with them. "Hello, Captain Reeves," Morrison said, using her old rank. Her real rank. "Or do you prefer Staff Sergeant Torres now?" Maya's mind raced. How much did Rivera know? How much could she deny? "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." Morrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Drop the act. Your performance today was broadcast across tactical nets, recorded by multiple units. You used authentication codes that were supposedly deleted 3 years ago." He pulled out a tablet, played audio. Her voice, calling in fire support, using call signs that belonged to a ghost. "You broke your agreement," Morrison continued. "You were supposed to disappear. Be nobody special. Keep your head down and your skills hidden." He set the tablet down. "Instead, you just exposed yourself to everyone who matters. The question now is what we do about it." Rivera spoke for the first time. "General Morrison arrived 2 hours ago. He's been waiting to see if you'd surface." She looked at Maya with something like sympathy. "He told me everything. About Operation Phantom Sunrise, about the Ghost medical program, about what really happened 3 years ago." Maya felt her carefully constructed world crumbling. "Ma'am, I was given a choice, court-martial or disappear. I chose to disappear." "You were given that choice because the operation was politically toxic," Morrison said. "Because 6 operators died on a mission that was based on faulty intelligence. Intelligence that certain people in the chain of command knew was faulty, but sent you in anyway." He leaned against the desk. "The Ghost program was disbanded not because it failed, but because you succeeded too well. Because you were proof that our special operations medical capabilities were far beyond what we publicly acknowledged." "Then why are you here, sir? To finish what you started? To make sure I really disappear this time?" Morrison laughed, harsh and bitter. "No, Captain. I'm here to thank you. Your performance today gave me exactly what I needed." Maya's confusion must have shown because Rivera explained. There's been an investigation. Quiet, slow, but ongoing. Into who provided the faulty intelligence that killed your team. Into why the Ghost program was really disbanded. She paused. The General needed evidence, needed one of you to surface and prove the program's value. You used me as bait, Maya said slowly, the pieces clicking together. The assignment to Barrett's team, the harassment, the patrol route through that valley, all of it was orchestrated. Morrison didn't deny it. We needed you under pressure, needed to see if you'd break cover to save lives. And you did, beautifully. Now the people who buried the Ghost program, who got your teammates killed, they know you're alive. They know the program's capabilities are still out there. And they'll come for me. Maya's voice was flat. You've painted a target on my back. They were always going to come eventually, Morrison said. This way, we control the timeline. We're ready for them. Maya wanted to hit him. 20, you scream. 3 years she'd spent hiding, rebuilding, trying to be someone normal. And it had all been a setup from the beginning. What happens now? She managed. Rivera answered. Now we have a choice. You can go back to being Staff Sergeant Torres, pretend today was just exceptional performance under pressure. But everyone who saw what you did will have questions. The Marines you saved will talk. Eventually someone will dig deep enough to find the truth. Or, Maya asked. Or you come back, Morrison said. The Ghost program is being quietly reactivated, unofficially of course. We need operators with your skills, people who can do the impossible when the mission requires it. And the people who got my team killed? What happens to them? Morrison's expression hardened. We find them. We expose them. We make sure what happens to you and your team never happens to anyone else. He paused. But I need your help to do it. I need the ghosts back in the field. A knock interrupted them. Doc Mitchell pushed the door open without waiting for permission, his face flushed with anger. I want to know what the hell is going on, he demanded. Torres gets pulled into a private meeting the second we land, after she just saved 7 lives? He looked at Morrison. And who are you supposed to be? Doc, it's fine, Maya started. It's not fine. I've been watching them treat you like shit for 2 months, watching you take abuse that would have broken most Marines, and then today you prove you're worth 10 of any operator on that team, and they drag you in here like you did something wrong? Staff Sergeant Mitchell, Rivera's voice carried warning. You're out of line. Am I, ma'am? Because from where I'm standing, something doesn't add up. Mitchell looked at Maya. Ghost 7-1. I looked it up while you were in surgery. That call sign belonged to a classified medical unit. A unit that supposedly died in a training accident 3 years ago. He turned to Morrison. So either Torres here is pretending to be someone dead, which would be a felony, or the official story was bullshit and you people have been lying about what really happened. The room fell silent. Maya could see Morrison calculating, deciding how much truth to reveal. Finally, he nodded to Rivera. Staff Sergeant Mitchell, what I'm about to tell you is classified. You repeat any of it, and you'll spend the rest of your career in Leavenworth. Are we clear? Mitchell's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Morrison gave him the abbreviated version. The Ghost program. The mission that went bad. The 6 dead operators. The deal Maya had been offered. Disappear or face criminal charges for a mission failure that wasn't her fault. When he finished, Mitchell looked at Maya with something approaching awe. You were a captain, a combat surgeon, and you've been letting those idiots treat you like you're fresh out of basic. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Mitchell turned to Morrison. So what happens to her now? You going to throw her back into the grinder? Use her up and toss her aside when she's not useful anymore? That's exactly what you're doing. I've seen your type before, General. You see operators as assets to be expended. Well, Torres isn't an asset. She's a person, and she's earned the right to decide her own future. Morrison's expression didn't change, but Maya saw his hand tighten on the tablet. Staff Sergeant, you're dismissed. This conversation is above your pay grade. No, sir. With respect, it's not. Mitchell stood his ground. Because if you're bringing the Ghost program back, you're going to need medical personnel you can trust. People who won't sell you out to whoever buried it the first time. He paused. I'm volunteering. Maya stared at him. Doc, you don't know what you're signing up for. I know enough. I know you're the best combat medic I've ever worked with. I know the Ghost program did things that saved lives other units couldn't, and I know that if you're going back into that world, you'll need someone watching your six. Mitchell looked at Morrison. I've got 22 years in, 3 combat deployments, advanced trauma training, and I'm not some kid who'll fold under pressure. So if you're building a team, I want on it. Morrison studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. We'll talk. Later. He turned back to Maya. But the decision ultimately rests with you, Captain. Do you want your old life back? Do you want to be a ghost again? Maya's thoughts were chaos. 3 years she'd spent trying to forget, trying to be someone smaller, safer. But today, when the bullets started flying, when Barrett's blood was on her hands, she'd felt alive in a way she hadn't since the old days. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. You have 6 hours, Morrison said. Transport leaves for classified location at 1800. You're on it or you're not. Your choice. He walked out, leaving Maya alone with Rivera and Mitchell. The colonel stood, moving around her desk. For what it's worth, Torres, you did exceptional work today. Barrett's alive because of you. So are 6 others. Whatever you decide about the Ghost program, you proved something important. She paused. You proved that the Marines who doubted you were fools, that their prejudice nearly cost them their lives, and that competence and courage don't care about gender or size or any of the other bullshit excuses people use to keep women out of combat roles. Will they face consequences, ma'am? Barrett and the others, for the harassment? Rivera's expression hardened. Barrett's going to have a long recovery, months of surgery and rehab. That gives him plenty of time to think about his choices. As for the others, she smiled grimly. I'm told Barrett woke up during prep and his first words were asking if you were okay. That Lieutenant Vega is writing you up for a Silver Star. That every Marine on that convoy is telling anyone who'll listen that you're the toughest operator they've ever seen. They're exaggerating. Maybe, but sometimes exaggeration serves a purpose. Sometimes you need the myth to change the culture. Rivera extended her hand. Whatever you decide, Torres, it's been an honor serving with you. After Rivera left, Mitchell and Maya stood in the small office, the weight of the day finally settling on them. You don't have to do this, Maya said quietly. Volunteer for the Ghost program. It's dangerous. The people who got my team killed are still out there. All the more reason to have backup, Mitchell smiled. Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting too full of yourself, Captain. I'm not a captain anymore. You will be if you accept Morrison's offer. Full reinstatement, he said. Back pay, recognition for what you've done. Mitchell paused. But more importantly, a chance to find out who betrayed you, who killed your team. Don't you want that? Did she? Maya thought about the 6 teammates who died 3 years ago,
Thought about the mission briefing where they'd been fed intelligence that was deliberately false. Thought about the ambush that followed, the desperate fight, the field hospital where she'd performed surgery while rounds impacted around her. She thought about the choice she'd been given afterward: disappear or face prosecution. Take the deal or lose everything. The deal had seemed merciful at the time, a chance to start over, to leave the ghosts behind. But ghosts didn't stay buried. They came back when you least expected them, demanding recognition, demanding justice. "Yeah," she said finally. "I want that." Mitchell nodded. "Then you know what you have to do."
First, I need to see Barrett. Need to make sure he's stable. They walked back through the hospital, past stares and whispers. Word had spread fast. The female medic who'd saved Gunny Barrett's life. The one who'd called in artillery with classified call signs. The mystery that everyone wanted to solve. Barrett was in post-op, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. He was awake, groggy from anesthesia, but lucid enough to track Maya's approach with his eyes. "Torres," he croaked. "They said you'd come." She moved to his bedside, checking his vitals out of habit. "How are you feeling, Gunny?" "Like someone rearranged my guts with a rusty spoon." He tried to laugh, winced. "But alive. The surgeon said another 10 minutes and I'd have bled out. Said your field surgery was the only thing that kept me stable enough to survive the flight." "You're tough to kill." "Not that tough. Not without you." Barrett's eyes filled with tears. "Torres, Maya, I'm so sorry. For everything." The coffee, the harassment, the way I treated you. I was wrong about everything. Save your strength, Gunny. No, I need to say this. Need you to hear it. He struggled to sit up, gave up, settled for meeting her eyes. I was threatened by you, by how competent you were. Because if a woman could be as good as me, better than me, it meant I wasn't special. Wasn't the elite warrior I thought I was. Tears ran down his cheeks now. My pride, my ego. It almost got good Marines killed. Almost got me killed. And you saved me anyway. After everything I did to you, you still saved me. Maya felt her own throat tighten. It's my job. It's what I do. It's more than a job. It's who you are. Barrett reached for her hand, his grip weak but sincere. I heard them talking. About the ghost program. About who you really are. And I just... Christ, Torres, you're everything I pretended to be. Everything I wanted to be. And I tried to break you because I couldn't handle that truth. You didn't break me. No. You're unbreakable. That's what scares men like me. He closed his eyes. When I get out of here, when I'm back to duty, I'm going to make this right. I'm going to make sure every Marine in this battalion knows what you did, knows who you are. And I'm going to spend the rest of my career making sure no other woman has to go through what I put you through. That's a good start, Gunny. It's not enough. It'll never be enough, but it's all I can offer. He opened his eyes. Are you leaving? Going back to the ghost program? Maya hesitated, then nodded. I think so. Yeah. Good. You belong with the best, not slumming it with regular grunts like me. He squeezed her hand. But, Torres, before you go, I need to know. Can you forgive me? Can you ever forgive me for what I did? She looked at this man who'd made her life hell for 2 months, who'd humiliated her, degraded her, tried to break her spirit, who was now lying in a hospital bed, alive only because she'd refused to let him die despite everything. Yeah, Gunny, I can forgive you. But you have to forgive yourself first. You have to do the work of becoming the man you want to be, not just talking about it. I will. I swear it. A nurse appeared, gently suggesting that Barrett needed rest. Maya nodded, starting to leave, but Barrett called after her. Hey, Torres? Ghost 7-1? She turned. Give him hell out there. And come back safe. The Marines, we need people like you. The country needs people like you. Maya managed to smile. I'll do my best, Gunny. You just focus on healing. Outside Barrett's room, she found half the team waiting. Dixon, Reeves, Martinez, even Lieutenant Vega. They stood when she approached, and the respect in their eyes was something she'd never seen before. We heard, Martinez said, about the Ghost program, about who you really are. I'm the same person I was yesterday. No, you're not. This from Reeves, who'd thrown the hot sauce on her food just last night. Yesterday we thought you were a liability. Today we know you're the reason any of us are alive. He stepped forward, extended his hand. I'm sorry, Torres. For everything. I was a jackass. We all were, Dixon added. And we want you to know, if you're going back to special operations, if you're hunting the people who got your team killed, we've got your back. Whatever you need. Maya felt emotion welling up, threatening to break through her carefully maintained control. Thanks. That means more than you know. Vega stepped forward. I put you in for a Silver Star. The citation details your actions during the ambush, the field surgery, the fire direction, the tactical decisions that saved 7 lives. It'll probably get downgraded to a Bronze Star with V device because that's how the bureaucracy works. But I want you to know what I wrote. That you're the finest Marine I've ever served with. That your courage under fire was exceptional. That this battalion is better because you were part of it. Sir, Maya's voice cracked. Thank you. No, Torres. Thank you. For showing us what we could be if we got past our own prejudices. For proving that excellence doesn't care about gender or size or any of the bullshit we told ourselves. Vega saluted. It's been an honor, Captain Reeves. The use of her old rank felt like coming home, like stepping back into a skin she'd shed 3 years ago. Uncomfortable, but familiar. Right, somehow. She returned the salute. The honor was mine, Lieutenant. As the Marines dispersed, Doc Mitchell appeared at her elbow. You ready for this? Really ready? Maya thought about the 6 teammates who died, about the people who betrayed them, about the Ghost program rising from the ashes. No, she said honestly. But I'm going anyway. Good answer. Mitchell smiled. Because ready or not, Captain, you've got 4 hours until that transport leaves. Might want to grab some food, a shower, maybe some sleep. Sleep, right. Like that's going to happen. Fair point. Come on, I know where they keep the good coffee in this place, the kind that'll keep you awake through the apocalypse. They walked through the hospital together, the older medic and the young captain who'd been hiding as a staff sergeant. Behind them, the Marines she'd saved were already turning her into a legend, the story growing with each retelling. But Maya wasn't thinking about legends or medals or recognition. She was thinking about the choice ahead, about stepping back into a world that had nearly destroyed her once already, about becoming a ghost again. And this time, she wouldn't just survive. This time, she'd make sure everyone who'd betrayed her team paid the price. The hunt was about to begin. The coffee burned going down, but Maya welcomed the pain. It kept her grounded, kept her in the present instead of spiraling back to memories she'd spent 3 years trying to bury. Doc Mitchell sat across from her in the empty hospital cafeteria, his own cup untouched as he studied her face. "You're thinking about them," he said quietly. "Your team, the ones who died." Maya's hands tightened around the cup. "Is it that obvious? To someone who's lost people? Yeah." Mitchell finally took a sip of his coffee, grimaced. "You want to talk about it?" "It's classified." "Most things worth talking about are." He leaned back in his chair. "But sometimes talking helps. Sometimes keeping it bottled up is what destroys you." Maya considered this. Morrison had said the truth was coming out anyway, that the investigation was already in motion. What harm could it do to share with someone who'd volunteered to walk back into that darkness with her? "We were sent to extract a high-value target," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Intelligence said he was wounded, hiding in a compound near the Pakistani border. Our job was to get in, stabilize him for transport, get out. Simple snatch and grab." "But the intelligence was wrong." "The intelligence was a lie." Maya's voice hardened. "Someone knew it was a lie. Someone sent us into that compound, knowing exactly what would happen." Mitchell waited, patient, as Maya wrestled with how much to reveal. "There was no HVT. Just 30 Taliban fighters waiting in ambush. They knew we were coming, knew our approach route, knew our capabilities." She closed her eyes, seeing it all again. "We lost 3 people in the first 30 seconds. Ricky Martinez, no relation to our Martinez, took an RPG right to the chest. Sarah Chen, she bled out before I could reach her. James Cooper made it to the compound but died when they triggered the secondary IED." "And the other 3? Maya's throat tightened. "We made it inside. Set up a defensive position. My team leader, Captain David Hernandez, he called for QRF, but the Taliban were jamming comms. We were on our own." She opened her eyes, met Mitchell's gaze. "David took a round through the neck while trying to raise support on the satellite phone. I tried to save him, Doc. I had my hands in his throat, trying to clamp the carotid, but there was too much damage. He died looking at me, trying to tell me something I couldn't hear over the gunfire." Mitchell's expression was pained, but he didn't interrupt. "Emily Rodriguez held them off while I worked on David. Best shooter I ever saw. She dropped 12 fighters before they flanked us, before she took rounds that shredded her femoral artery. I got a tourniquet on her, but she'd already lost too much blood. Went into shock, cardiac arrest. I couldn't bring her back." Maya's voice broke. "I tried, Doc. I did CPR for 20 minutes while the compound burned around us, but she was gone." "And the 6th? "Marcus Williams. The last ghost standing besides me." He was hit in the abdomen, similar to what happens to Barrett today. But 3 years ago, I didn't have the skills I have now. Didn't have the confidence. She wiped at her eyes angrily. "I hesitated. Spent too long trying to stabilize Emily when she was already gone. By the time I got to Marcus, he'd bled internally for 15 minutes. I tried the same procedure I did on Barrett today, but it was too late. He died on my table while I was elbow deep in his guts, trying to clamp bleeders I couldn't even see properly." The silence stretched between them. Maya drained her coffee, grateful for something to do with her shaking hands. "QRF finally broke through 2 hours later," she continued. "Found me sitting in Marcus's blood, surrounded by 6 bodies. I'd been hit twice myself, but didn't even notice. Shock, they said. Trauma." She laughed bitterly. "They shipped me to Germany, patched me up, and then the investigation started." "Who authorized the mission? Why was the intelligence wrong? How did an entire ghost team get wiped out?" "And they found someone to blame. They found me. Said I made tactical errors. Said I should have aborted the mission when the first casualties occurred. Said I should have done more to save my teammates. Maya's hands clenched into fists. Never mind that the intelligence was deliberately false. Never mind that someone sent us to die. They needed a scapegoat, and a female officer was convenient. Mitchell's jaw tightened. That's bullshit. That's the military. That's how it works when something goes wrong, and the truth is too politically dangerous to admit. She met his eyes. They gave me a choice. Accept a demotion, take a new identity, disappear into the regular forces and never speak about the ghost program again, or face court-martial for dereliction of duty and negligent homicide. Jesus Christ. I took the deal. What else could I do? My teammates were dead, the program was disbanded, and fighting would have just destroyed me further. Maya's voice went flat. So, Maya Torres was born. Staff sergeant, combat medic, nobody special. I buried Captain Jennifer Reeves along with my team. Mitchell absorbed this, his expression cycling through anger, sympathy, and something like awe. And you've been carrying this for 3 years? Alone? What choice did I have? You could have broken, could have given up, could have let the injustice eat you alive. Mitchell leaned forward. Instead, you kept going. Kept being excellent at your job, even when people like Barrett tried to break you. That takes strength most people don't have. Before Maya could respond, footsteps echoed in the cafeteria. Corporal Amy Chen appeared, her face flushed like she'd been running.
Torres, thank God. I've been looking everywhere for you.
Chen glanced at Mitchell. Sorry to interrupt, Doc, but there's something you need to see. What is it? Your quarters. Someone broke in. Tossed the place completely. Maya was on her feet instantly, Mitchell right behind her. They followed Chen through the hospital and across the base to the enlisted barracks. A small crowd had gathered outside Maya's door, including 2 military police. "Clear the area," one of the MPs barked. "This is a crime scene." Maya pushed through, her stomach sinking as she saw the destruction. Her locker had been pried open, contents scattered. Her bunk had been torn apart, mattress slashed open. Every personal item she owned had been rifled through, examined, discarded. They were looking for something, the MP said. Any idea what? Maya's mind raced. Her ghost program documentation was long gone, destroyed per the terms of her agreement. But she'd kept one thing, hidden in a place she thought was secure. A flash drive containing evidence from that final mission. Video footage from her helmet camera. Audio recordings of the mission briefing. Data she'd kept as insurance in case the people who betrayed her ever came looking. She moved to her destroyed bunk, found the spot where she'd hollowed out a section of the frame. Empty. Shit, she breathed. Mitchell was beside her instantly. What did they take? Evidence. From 3 years ago. Maya's voice was grim. Someone knows I kept records. Someone who doesn't want that information getting out. Or someone who wants to know exactly what you have, Mitchell countered. Either way, this wasn't random theft. This was targeted. The MP looked between them. You're saying this is related to classified material? I'm saying I need to speak with Colonel Rivera immediately. 10 minutes later, they were back in Rivera's office, this time with General Morrison present via secure video link. Maya explained about the break-in, about the flash drive, about what it contained. Morrison's face on the screen was granite. That footage should have been destroyed, per your agreement. I kept it as insurance, in case whoever set us up came after the survivors. And now they have it. They know exactly what evidence you were holding. Morrison's expression darkened. This changes things. We need to move up the timeline. Sir, I haven't even agreed to rejoin the program yet. You don't have a choice anymore, Captain. The people who killed your team now know you're alive, and you have evidence against them. They'll come for you, whether you're under our protection or not." He paused. "The transport leaves in 90 minutes instead of 4 hours. You and Mitchell need to be on it." "What about my Marines? Barrett and the others? If someone's willing to break into my quarters, they might go after the team." Rivera spoke up. "I'll assign extra security. Put the hospital on lockdown. No one gets near those men without proper authorization."
"That might not be enough," Mitchell interjected.
"If these people have access to the base, if they can break into secured areas, they can get to anyone." Morrison nodded. "Which is why we're evacuating the entire team. Medical transport to Landstuhl, Germany. They'll be under military guard the whole way." Maya felt the walls closing in. Everything was moving too fast, spiraling beyond her control. "Sir, I need to know who we're up against. Who betrayed my team? Who killed my people?" "We don't have confirmation yet, just suspicions." Morrison's expression was grim. "But the investigation has narrowed down to 3 possibilities. All senior officers with access to Ghost program intelligence, all with connections to defense contractors who would benefit from the program being disbanded." "Names. I need names." Morrison hesitated, then made a decision. "Colonel Marcus Blackwell, currently assigned to SOCOM headquarters.
Major General Patricia Hughes, now retired but very influential in defense circles.
And Brigadier General Robert Chen, commander of special operations in this theater." The last name hit Maya like a physical blow. "Chen? Sarah Chen's father?" "Yes, Sarah Chen, one of your teammates who died that night, was his daughter." Morrison's voice was careful. "Which is why he's actually our least likely suspect. No father would knowingly send his daughter into a death trap." "Unless he didn't know she was going to be on that mission," Mitchell said slowly. "Unless the betrayal was about something bigger, and his daughter was collateral damage." Maya's mind reeled. Sarah had been her best friend in the Ghost program. They'd gone through training together, deployed together, saved each other's lives more times than she could count. The thought that Sarah's own father might have been involved in her death made Maya's stomach churn. "I want to talk to him," she said. "General Chen." "I want to look him in the eye and ask him if he killed his own daughter." "That's not possible right now," Rivera said. "He's in the field, location classified." "How convenient." Maya's voice dripped with sarcasm. Morrison cleared his throat. "Captain, I understand your anger, but we have to do this right. Build a case that will stand up to scrutiny. Going off half-cocked will just tip off the guilty parties and destroy our investigation." "Your investigation has taken 3 years and gotten nowhere." "Because we're being careful. Because the people we're up against have powerful friends and unlimited resources." Morrison leaned toward the camera. "I know you want justice for your team. So do I. But justice requires patience and precision, not rage and revenge." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to push back, but she knew he was right. Charging in without a plan would just get her killed and leave her teammates unavenged. "Fine. I'll play it your way. For now." She paused. "But sir, if I'm getting back in the game, I need to know everything. No more secrets. No more need-to-know bullshit. You want my help, you give me full transparency." Morrison considered this, then nodded. "Agreed. Once you're at the secure facility, you'll be read in on everything we've learned, every detail of the investigation, every piece of evidence." He paused. "And, Captain, there's something else you should know. You're not the only ghost who survived that night." Maya's heart stopped. "What?" "2 others made it out. We thought you were the only one for a long time, but recent intelligence suggests otherwise." Morrison's expression was unreadable. We don't know who they are or where they are, but they're out there, hiding just like you were. And the people who betrayed us? They know this too? We believe so, which is why the break-in today is so concerning. They're making moves, getting aggressive. Something's changed, and we need to figure out what before more people die.
After Morrison signed off, Maya sat in stunned silence. 2 other survivors. 2 teammates who'd been hiding just like her, living under false identities, keeping secrets that could get them killed. "Who do you think made it out?" Mitchell asked gently. Maya thought back to that hellish night. 6 confirmed deaths, herself the only known survivor. That left 17 other ghost operators who'd been part of the program, but not on that specific mission. Could be anyone. We were compartmentalized for security. I knew my immediate team, but not everyone in the program. She rubbed her face, exhaustion finally catching up with her. God, Doc, what have I gotten us into? Nothing you didn't get into 3 years ago. We're just acknowledging it now instead of hiding. Mitchell stood. Come on, we've got an hour to pack and say goodbyes. Better make it count.
Maya's goodbye to Barrett was quick but emotional. He was sleeping when she arrived, but she left a note on his bedside table. You're going to be fine, Gunny. Take care of the Marines. Make the changes you promised. And thank you for giving me a reason to stop hiding. Ghost 7-1. She found Lieutenant Vega in his office, finishing the paperwork for her Silver Star recommendation. I heard you're leaving, he said without looking up. Special assignment, they told me. Can't discuss details. That's the gist of it, sir. Vega set down his pen, finally meeting her eyes. I want you to know something, Torres. Captain Reeves, whoever you are. He paused. You made me a better officer. Showed me that my assumptions about women in combat were based on prejudice, not facts. When I have my own command someday, I'll remember what you taught me. That excellence doesn't care about gender. That the best warrior isn't always the biggest or loudest. That courage comes in all packages. Thank you, sir. That means everything. No, Captain. Thank you. Vega stood, extended his hand. Give them hell out there, and come back safe. The Corps needs officers like you. Her final stop was the hospital chapel, empty at this hour. Maya knelt in front of the small altar, not because she was particularly religious, but because she needed a moment of quiet to process everything that had happened. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, she whispered to ghosts only she could see. Sarah, David, Emily, Marcus, Ricky, James. I'm so sorry. But I promise you this. I'm going to find out who betrayed us. I'm going to make them pay. And I'm going to make sure your deaths meant something. The chapel offered no answers, just silence and the faint smell of incense. But somehow, Maya felt lighter, like speaking the promise aloud had lifted some of the weight she'd been carrying. Doc Mitchell found her there 20 minutes later. Transport's ready. Time to go. They walked to the helipad together, their gear packed, their old lives left behind. A black helicopter waited, rotors already spinning. Maya recognized the markings, or rather, the lack of them. This was a ghost bird, designed to be invisible, untraceable. As she climbed aboard, she looked back at the base one last time. Somewhere in that hospital, 7 Marines owed their lives to her. Somewhere in that compound, her quarters had been ransacked by people who wanted her dead. Somewhere in the world, 2 other ghosts were hiding, waiting, surviving. The helicopter lifted off into the night sky, carrying Maya away from everything familiar, toward a future she couldn't predict. But for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't running from her past. She was running toward it. And when she caught up, there would be hell to pay. The flight to the secure facility took 6 hours, most of it over open ocean to avoid tracking. Maya spent the time reviewing files Morrison had sent to her tablet. Personnel records for the 3 suspects, operational reports from the night her team died, financial records showing suspicious payments and connections to defense contractors. "Look at this," she said to Mitchell, showing him a series of transactions. 3 days before our mission, Colonel Blackwell received a payment from Aegis Defense Solutions, $2 million to a shell company he owns. Aegis makes combat medical equipment, Mitchell noted. They were competing for the contract to supply the Ghost program. And they lost the contract to MedTech International 2 weeks before our mission. Maya's mind raced, connecting dots. If the Ghost program was disbanded, the contract would be void. New bids would go out. Aegis would have another shot. You think Blackwell sold out your team for a defense contract? I think $2 million buys a lot of betrayal. Maya kept scrolling through the files, but it doesn't explain everything. Why specifically target that mission? Why not just sabotage the program administratively? Mitchell leaned back, thinking. Maybe it wasn't just about the contract. Maybe there was something else going on. Something the Ghost program discovered, or was about to discover. Like what? I don't know. But people don't usually commit mass murder for business reasons alone. There's something personal here. Something we're missing. The helicopter began its descent, pulling Maya from her theories. Through the window, she could see a military facility that didn't appear on any maps. Concrete bunkers, razor wire, guard towers. A place designed to keep secrets. The helicopter touched down in a secured landing zone. Armed guards met them, checking IDs and credentials before escorting them into the main building. The interior was all business. Concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, the sterile efficiency of a place built for function, not comfort. General Morrison waited in a conference room, along with 2 people Maya didn't recognize. One was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled into a tight bun. The other was a younger man, maybe 35, with the lean build of a runner and nervous energy that suggested intelligence analyst. Captain Reeves, Staff Sergeant Mitchell, welcome to Forward Operating Base Phantom, Morrison said. This is Dr. Sarah Winters, our Chief Medical Officer for the revived Ghost program. And this is Agent David Park, CIA liaison assigned to the investigation. Park stepped forward, extending his hand. Captain Reeves, it's an honor. I've read your file. What you did for your team that night. It was extraordinary. Not extraordinary enough to save them. No one could have saved them, Dr. Winters said quietly. Not under those conditions. The fact that you survived is remarkable. The fact that you've continued to be operational despite the trauma is even more so. Maya bristled at the clinical assessment. I'm not some lab specimen, doctor. No, you're a highly trained combat surgeon with PTSD and survivor's guilt who's been operating under a false identity for 3 years. Winters didn't smile. My job is to make sure you're mentally fit to return to active duty. So yes, Captain, you are absolutely a subject of clinical interest. The bluntness was almost refreshing after all the careful political language. Maya found herself liking this woman, despite the circumstances. Fair enough. What do you need to know? We'll do a full psychological evaluation later. Right now, I just need to know if you're going to fall apart when the pressure's on. Maya thought about the ambush earlier today, about Barrett's blood on her hands, about the split-second decisions that saved 7 lives. I didn't fall apart today. I won't fall apart tomorrow. Winters studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good enough for now. Morrison gestured to chairs around the conference table. Sit. We have a lot to cover and not much time. As they settled in, Agent Park pulled up files on a large screen. Photos of the 3 suspects, financial records, operational timelines. Let's start with what we know for certain, Park began. Someone with access to Ghost Program intelligence deliberately fed your team false information about the target location and threat assessment. That intelligence came through official channels, which means it was someone high enough in the command structure to be trusted implicitly. Blackwell, Hughes, or Chen, Maya said. Correct. All 3 had the access and opportunity. The question is motive. Park highlighted Colonel Blackwell's file. Blackwell is our prime suspect based on the financial evidence. The payment from Aegis Defense, plus subsequent payments totaling $8 million over the past 3 years. But, Mitchell prompted, but the intelligence that killed your team didn't just benefit Aegis. It also derailed a congressional investigation into special operations medical practices. An investigation that would have exposed some uncomfortable truths about experimental procedures being used in the field. Maya leaned forward. What kind of experimental procedures? Dr. Winters took over. The Ghost Program was pushing the boundaries of combat medicine. Techniques that weren't approved for field use, drugs that hadn't been fully tested, surgical procedures that were considered too risky. She paused. Some of those procedures saved lives. Others didn't. The investigation would have shut down not just the Ghost Program, but several other special operations medical initiatives. Who would benefit from that investigation going away? Major General Hughes, Park said. She was director of Special Operations Medical Services at the time. The investigation was specifically targeting her oversight. If it had gone forward, she would have faced criminal charges. Maya's head was spinning. So Blackwell had financial motive, Hughes had legal motive. What about Chen? Park's expression darkened. Chen's motive is the most disturbing. We believe he was being blackmailed. By who? We don't know yet. But 6 months before your mission, Chen's service record shows some anomalies. Unauthorized trips, unexplained absences. And then his daughter Sarah suddenly requested transfer to your team, even though she'd been assigned elsewhere. Maya's blood ran cold. You think someone forced Sarah onto our team? Used her as leverage against her father? It's a theory. If someone had leverage over Chen, they could force him to provide the false intelligence. And if his daughter was on the mission, he couldn't expose the truth without admitting he'd sent his own child to die. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture more horrifying than Maya had imagined. Not just bureaucratic corruption or financial greed, but something darker. A conspiracy that had used a father's love for his daughter as a weapon. I need to talk to Chen, Maya said firmly. Now. Not later, not when it's convenient. Now. Morrison shook his head. He's in the field, location classified even from me. We can't reach him without tipping off whoever's watching. Then we wait for him to come back. Set up a meeting. Because if what you're saying is true, if someone used his daughter as a pawn, then Chen might be our best asset. He has just as much reason to want revenge as I do. Or he's complicit, Park countered. Maybe he made a deal to save himself and sacrificed his daughter. Maybe the guilt has driven him to work with us. Or maybe he's been working against us this whole time, trying to cover his tracks. Maya stood abruptly, needing to move, to think. This is insane. 3 years I've been hiding, thinking my team was betrayed for money or politics. But this is something else entirely. This is what happens when special operations get too special, Dr. Winters said quietly. When programs operate so far in the shadows that accountability disappears. When good people make compromises to serve a mission they believe in, and those compromises get exploited by people with no morals at all.
Mitchell spoke up for the first time. So what's the play? We sit here reviewing files and building theories while whoever killed Captain Reeves's team is still out there? The play, Morrison said, is we use Captain Reeves as bait. Again. Maya spun to face him. Excuse me? The break-in at your quarters today wasn't random. It was a test. They wanted to see what you'd kept, what evidence you had. Now they know you're a threat. Morrison stood, moving to the screen. So we let them make the next move. We put you in a position where you're exposed but protected. And when they come for you, we grab them.
You want to use me to draw out a killer. I want to use you to draw out the truth. There's a difference. Maya looked at Mitchell, at Dr. Winters, at Agent Park, saw the calculation in their eyes. They'd already made this decision before she arrived. This whole briefing was just getting her on board with a plan already in motion. And if I refuse? Then you go back to being Staff Sergeant Torres, looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, knowing your teammate's killer is still out there. Morrison's voice was hard. Is that really what you want? No, it wasn't. Maya had spent 3 years running, hiding, pretending. She was done with that. Done being a victim. Done letting fear control her choices. Fine. I'm in. But on one condition. What's that? When we catch whoever did this, when we have them dead to rights, I get 5 minutes alone with them before they face justice. 5 minutes to look them in the eye and tell them about every single person they killed. About Sarah, and David, and Emily, and Marcus, and Ricky, and James. About the lives they destroyed and the futures they stole. Morrison considered this, then nodded slowly. 5 minutes. You have my word. Then let's catch a traitor. The plan was simple in theory, deadly in execution. Maya would attend a medical conference in Washington, D.C., present a paper on advanced combat trauma care under her real name, Captain Jennifer Reeves. The presentation would be publicized through military channels, a deliberate signal that Ghost 7-1 was back and no longer hiding. You'll be bait, Morrison had said, but protected bait. Protected meant a security team Maya couldn't see but knew was there. Meant body armor under her dress uniform. Meant a concealed weapon she prayed she wouldn't need. But standing in the conference hotel ballroom 3 days later, surrounded by 200 military medical professionals, Maya felt completely exposed. Captain Reeves? A voice behind her made her turn. An older man, maybe 60, with colonel's eagles on his uniform. I just wanted to say, your presentation was remarkable. The field techniques you described. I've never seen anything quite like them. Thank you, sir. It's all about adapting to circumstances. Indeed. The colonel's smile didn't reach his eyes. Though I have to wonder where you developed such advanced skills. Your official record shows standard combat medic training, yet you're describing surgical procedures that would challenge most field surgeons. Maya's pulse quickened. Was this innocent curiosity, or something more? Experience is a good teacher, Colonel. So it is. He extended his hand. Colonel Marcus Blackwell. I'm with SOCOM headquarters, procurement and development. The name hit her like a physical blow, but she kept her expression neutral as she shook his hand. Blackwell. One of the 3 suspects. The man who'd received $2 million from Aegis Defense 3 days before her teen died. A pleasure, sir. The pleasure is mine, Captain. In fact, I'd like to discuss your work further. Perhaps over dinner tonight? I'm very interested in how your techniques might be integrated into our current medical protocols. Every instinct screamed danger, but this was exactly what they planned for. Draw out the suspects, see who made contact. I'd be honored, sir. What time? 1800 hours.
There is a restaurant 2 blocks from here, Marconi's. Quiet, intimate, perfect for discussing sensitive operational matters. After Blackwell walked away, Maya's earpiece crackled. Agent Park's voice. "We got it all. He's making his move faster than expected." "Copy that. Do I go to the dinner?" "Affirmative."
We'll have eyes on you the whole time. Mitchell will be inside as backup. The hours until dinner crawled by. Maya sat through presentations on field triage and emergency surgery, but her mind was elsewhere. On Blackwell. On the $2 million. On whether she was about to sit across from the man who'd killed her team. At 17:45 hours, she changed into civilian clothes, jeans, a blazer, comfortable shoes she could run in if necessary. The concealed holster at her hip held a Glock 19, small enough to hide, but deadly enough to matter. Doc Mitchell met her in the hotel lobby, dressed as a tourist with a camera around his neck. "I'll be 3 tables away. Anything feels wrong, you signal, and I'll be there in 2 seconds." "I can handle Blackwell." "I know you can, but you shouldn't have to do this alone." Marconi's was exactly as Blackwell had described. Quiet, intimate, with private booths that offered both discretion and vulnerability. Blackwell was already seated when Maya arrived, a bottle of expensive wine on the table. "Captain Reeves, so glad you could make it." He stood, pulling out her chair with old-fashioned courtesy that felt wrong somehow. "Please, sit. I took the liberty of ordering wine." "Thank you, sir, but I don't drink on duty." "You're not on duty, Captain. This is just 2 colleagues sharing a meal." But his eyes were calculating, watching her reaction. They ordered food Maya had no intention of eating. Small talk about the conference, about advances in military medicine, about the challenges of bringing cutting-edge care to forward positions. All of it surface-level pleasantries while they circled each other like predators. Finally, Blackwell set down his fork. "Let's be honest with each other, Captain. I know who you really are. Ghost 7-1, sole survivor of Operation Phantom Sunrise, the mission that never officially happened." Maya's hand moved closer to her weapon, slow and careful. "I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Please, the call signs you used in Afghanistan 3 days ago, the surgical techniques you employed? I've been in special operations for 30 years. I recognize ghost training when I see it." He leaned forward. "The question is, what are you doing here? Why expose yourself after 3 years of hiding?" "Maybe I got tired of hiding." "Or maybe you're looking for something. Or someone." Blackwell's expression hardened. "Let me save you some time, Captain. I didn't kill your team." The bluntness shocked her. "Then why did Aegis Defense pay you $2 million 3 days before my mission?" "You've been digging. Good. That shows initiative." Blackwell pulled out a tablet, showed her financial records. "Yes, I received payment from Aegis, but not as a bribe. As a consultant fee for helping them develop next-generation trauma equipment. Equipment that's now saving lives across every branch of service." "Convenient timing." "Coincidental timing. The contract was negotiated 6 months before your mission. The payment schedule was predetermined." He swiped through more documents. "But someone made it look suspicious. Someone who wanted me to take the fall when your team died." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm giving you something your investigation hasn't found yet." Blackwell pulled up a classified file. "Communications intercepts from the night your team died. Someone was feeding the Taliban real-time updates on your position. Someone with access to your operational frequency." Maya's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Our comms were encrypted." "With encryption that was compromised 6 months earlier. A fact that was reported up the chain, but never acted on." Blackwell met her eyes. "I found the report 3 days ago. It was buried in classified archives, marked for destruction. I saved a copy because I knew you'd need proof. Proof of what? That whoever betrayed your team had been planning it for months. That they compromised your communications, fed you false intelligence, and ensured maximum casualties. He paused. And that I wasn't involved. My financial records are clean when you look at the full picture. But someone wanted them to appear dirty. Maya's earpiece crackled. Park's voice. Captain, we're picking up suspicious movement outside the restaurant. Multiple contacts, possibly hostile. Recommend you abort. She ignored the warning, focused on Blackwell. If you didn't do it, who did? I have theories, but theories aren't proof. Blackwell slid the tablet across the table. Take this. Everything I've found is on there. Communications intercepts, financial records, operational reports that don't match the official narrative. Why help me? What do you get out of this? Blackwell's expression softened for the first time. Because I knew your team, Captain. Trained with some of them. David Hernandez served under me before joining the Ghost program. He was a good man, a brilliant officer. His voice roughened. When I heard what happened, I started asking questions. Questions that made certain people very uncomfortable. That's why they tried to frame me, to discredit any investigation I might conduct. Captain, you need to move, now! Park's voice was urgent. Contacts are converging on your position. Maya grabbed the tablet, stood. Colonel, we need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere. This conversation needed to happen, and I knew it would draw out the real conspirators. Blackwell pulled a weapon from his jacket. But don't worry, Captain. I didn't come here unprepared. The restaurant's front window exploded inward, glass showering across tables as armed men burst through. Not military, not police. Private contractors with the hard eyes of experienced killers. Maya had her Glock out instantly, dropping behind the overturned table. Doc Mitchell was already moving, his weapon drawn, shouting for civilians to get down. Contact! Multiple hostiles! Maya reported into her mic. Blackwell's with me. Appears to be friendly. The contractors opened fire, professional 3-round bursts that spoke of serious training. Maya returned fire, dropping one attacker with 2 shots to center mass. Blackwell was beside her, his shooting equally precise. Aegis contractors! He shouted over the gunfire. Someone sent them to clean up loose ends. How many? 6 that I count. Could be more outside. Mitchell had taken position behind the bar, providing covering fire as panicked diners fled through the kitchen. Captain, we need to move. Park's team is 2 minutes out, but we won't last that long. Maya's tactical mind raced through options. 6 hostile, 3 friendly. Limited cover. Civilians still in the line of fire. No good choices, just least bad ones. Mitchell, suppressive fire on my mark. Blackwell, we're moving to the kitchen. Go! They moved as a unit, years of training overriding conscious thought. Mitchell's covering fire forced the contractors to duck, while Maya and Blackwell sprinted for the kitchen door. Bullets tore through the air around them, one grazing Maya's shoulder and drawing blood. The kitchen was chaos. Chefs and servers huddled behind equipment, a back door propped open where most had already fled. Maya directed them out while covering the entrance. Mitchell, fall back! He moved, firing as he retreated, but one of the contractors had flanked. The round caught Mitchell in the leg, spinning him around. He went down hard, still shooting, but bleeding heavily. Maya didn't hesitate. She sprinted back into the dining room, firing at the flanking contractor, forcing him to cover. Grabbed Mitchell under the arms and dragged him toward the kitchen with strength born of desperation and fury. I got you, Doc. I got you. Go! He gasped. Leave me. Save yourself. Not a chance. Nobody dies today. Blackwell appeared beside her, laying down covering fire as she hauled Mitchell to safety.
The contractors were advancing, professional and relentless, when the front door burst open again. This time, it was Park's team. Federal agents in tactical gear, weapons raised, shouting commands. "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" The contractors hesitated, calculating odds, then scattered. 2 went down to agent fire. The others escaped through side exits, vanishing into D.C. streets with practiced efficiency. Maya knelt beside Mitchell, already assessing his wound. "Femoral arteries intact. You'll live, but you're done for today."
Hell of a first date,
Mitchell managed through gritted teeth. Park appeared, his face grim. "We got 2 contractors alive. They're not talking yet, but they will." He looked at Blackwell. "Colonel, I need you to come with us. Protective custody until we sort this out." "Understood."
Blackwell looked at Maya. "Captain, the information on that tablet, it points to who's really behind this, but it also puts you in more danger than before." "I'm already in danger. Might as well know why." The hospital where they took Mitchell was actually a safe house, disguised as a civilian medical facility. While doctors worked on his leg, Maya sat in a secure room with Park and Morrison, reviewing Blackwell's files. The communications intercepts were damning. Someone with access to the Ghost program's encryption keys had been feeding information to Taliban commanders for months. The messages were coded but clear enough. Operational schedules, patrol routes, team compositions. "This is sophisticated," Park said. "Not just a one-time betrayal. This was systematic intelligence sharing over an extended period." "But why?" Maya couldn't make sense of it. What did they gain? Morrison pulled up another file. Money. Lots of it. The Taliban were paying for this information. Payments traced to shell companies owned by... He paused. Major General Patricia Hughes. The second suspect. The woman who'd been facing a congressional investigation. Hughes wasn't just trying to avoid prosecution, Morrison continued. She was actively selling intelligence to the enemy, using the investigation as cover for why she needed to disband the Ghost program, not to protect herself legally, but to hide her espionage. Maya felt sick. Sarah and the others died because Hughes wanted money? Not just money, power, influence. Hughes used her Taliban connections to broker backroom deals with defense contractors, shared intelligence that got people killed, then awarded contracts to companies that paid her kickbacks. Morrison's voice was disgusted. She turned treason into a business model. Where is she now? That's the problem. Hughes disappeared 6 hours ago, withdrew $10 million from offshore accounts, and vanished. Park looked at Maya. She knows we're closing in. Knows you're the key witness who can tie her to the Ghost program betrayal. She's going to come for you with everything she has. Let her come. Captain, this woman has resources we can barely track. Former special operations contacts, private military contractors, enough money to make a lot of people willing to kill on her behalf. Morrison leaned forward. You need to go into protective custody until we can locate her. No. Maya's voice was steel. I'm done hiding. Done letting fear dictate my choices. Hughes wants me? Fine. But it's going to be on my terms. Mitchell appeared in the doorway, his leg bandaged but mobile. Don't bother arguing with her, General. I've seen that look before. She's made up her mind. You should be resting, Maya said. I should be backing up my partner. Mitchell moved to the table, wincing but determined. So what's the play? Maya looked at the files, at the evidence Blackwell had provided, at the pieces finally coming together after 3 years. We use me as bait again, but this time we're not waiting for Hughes to make the first move. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we leak my location, make it look like I'm vulnerable, alone, an easy target. Maya met Morrison's eyes. Hughes is desperate. She'll take the bait if we make it tempting enough. Park shook his head. That's suicide. Hughes won't send contractors this time. She'll come herself with every advantage she can muster. Good, because I want her myself. Want to look her in the eye when I tell her about the 6 people she murdered, about the lives she destroyed from money. Maya's voice was cold. And then I want to watch her face when we put her in handcuffs and destroy everything she built on blood and treason. Morrison studied her for a long moment. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The trap was set 48 hours later. A safe house in rural Virginia, isolated but with clear approach routes. Intel was leaked through channels known to be compromised, showing Maya alone and unguarded. In reality, 24 federal agents surrounded the property. Sniper teams on the high ground, tactical units ready to move, and Maya inside, sitting at a kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a loaded weapon, waiting. The waiting was the hardest part. Sitting with her thoughts, with the memories of teammates who died because of Hughes's greed. Maya had spent 3 years running from those memories. Now she invited them in, let them fuel her determination. Sarah, she whispered to the empty room, I'm going to get her. For you. For all of you. The attack came at 0300 hours. Not subtle, not careful. Hughes had clearly decided that overwhelming force was her best option. The first explosion took out the safe house's front wall. Maya was already moving, heading for the reinforced basement as the building shook. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Hughes had brought serious firepower. But so had Morrison. The federal response was immediate and devastating. Sniper teams engaged hostile positions. Tactical units moved in coordinated assault. What Hughes had intended as an execution turned into a pitched battle she couldn't win. Maya emerged from the basement to find the safe house destroyed, but the attackers neutralized. Federal agents were cuffing contractors, reading rights, securing evidence. And there, in the middle of it all, was Patricia Hughes. She looked smaller than Maya expected. A woman in her 50s, gray hair, hard eyes that showed no remorse. Just calculation, weighing odds, looking for an escape that didn't exist. Major General Hughes, Morrison said formally, you're under arrest for treason, espionage, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 40 other charges that will keep you locked up for the rest of your life. Hughes's eyes found Maya. The ghost. I wondered when you'd surface. You killed my team. I eliminated assets that had become liabilities. Nothing personal, Captain, just business. The casual dismissal of 6 lives as assets made Maya's blood boil, but she kept her voice steady. You sold them out for money, fed intelligence to the Taliban, got American soldiers killed so you could make a profit. I provided a service to clients who paid well. The fact that some of those clients were Taliban is irrelevant. War is business, Captain. The sooner you understand that, the better. Maya stepped closer, close enough to see the contempt in Hughes's eyes. You want to know what your business cost? Let me tell you about Sergeant Sarah Chen. 24 years old, brilliant medic, loved photography and bad action movies. She died trying to protect our position while I worked on our team leader. Took 4 rounds to the chest, bled out in my arms. Hughes's expression didn't change. Maya continued. Captain David Hernandez, 32, had a wife and 2 daughters. He took a round through the neck while calling for support. I tried to save him, had my hands in his throat trying to clamp the bleeder. But you made sure there was no support coming. You jammed our comms, ensured we'd die isolated. I'm not interested in your emotional— Shut up! Maya's voice cracked like a whip. You're going to hear every single name. Lieutenant Emily Rodriguez, Master Sergeant Marcus Williams, Corporal Ricky Martinez, Sergeant James Cooper. 6 people with families, with futures, with dreams. 6 people you murdered for money. Hughes finally showed emotion, impatience. Are you finished? Because I have lawyers to call. Maya stared at this woman who felt nothing, no remorse, no guilt, just annoyance at being caught. Yeah, Maya said quietly. I'm finished. But they're not done with you. Every charge, every piece of evidence, every family member who lost someone because of you, they're all going to make sure you never see daylight again. As agents led Hughes away, Morrison approached Maya. That was your 5 minutes. How do you feel? Empty. I thought confronting her would bring closure. But she doesn't care. Doesn't regret anything. People like Hughes never do. But that's why we have justice systems. To hold people accountable, even when they refuse to hold themselves accountable. He paused. The Ghost program is officially reactivated. We need people like you, Captain. People who understand what's worth fighting for. Maya looked at the destroyed safe house, at the agents processing the scene, at Mitchell being checked by medics for the 2nd time in a week. Thought about Barrett and the Marines, about the lives she'd saved, and the ones she couldn't. I'm in, but on one condition. Name it. The next Ghost team I work with, we do things right. No corruption, no politics, no sacrificing people for profit. Maya met his eyes. We protect those who can't protect themselves. We save lives instead of ending them. And we never, ever leave anyone behind. Morrison extended his hand. Deal. Welcome back, Ghost 7-1. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of a new class of Ghost program recruits. 20 young medics, male and female, looking at her with a mixture of awe and nervousness. Behind her, Doc Mitchell prepared the day's training equipment. Good morning, Maya began. I'm Captain Jennifer Reeves, but most people call me Ghost 7-1. I'm here to teach you how to save lives in conditions that will make you question whether saving anyone is possible. She paused, looking at their young faces, seeing her own reflection from years ago. Some of you will wash out. This program is brutal, unforgiving, and will push you past limits you didn't know you had. Some of you will question whether it's worth it. She thought about Sarah and David and Emily and Marcus and Ricky and James. About Barrett lying in the dirt with his guts spilling out. About every patient she'd saved and everyone she'd lost. But I'm here to tell you, it is worth it. Every grueling hour of training, every impossible scenario, every moment you want to quit. Because someday, somewhere, a warrior is going to be bleeding out in the dirt, and you're going to be the only thing standing between them and death. She smiled, feeling the weight of ghosts finally lifting. Let's get to work. Across the room, Mitchell caught her eye and nodded. They'd both come a long way from that ambush in the Tangi Valley, from the harassment and doubt and pain. They'd survived. They'd fought back. They'd won. And now they'd make sure the next generation was ready for whatever came. Because that's what warriors did. They endured. They adapted. They overcame. And they never, ever surrendered. Maya Torres, Captain Jennifer Reeves, Ghost 7-1, had stopped hiding and started fighting. And she wasn't going to stop until every warrior had someone watching their back, the way her team had watched hers. The ghosts of the past would always be with her, but now they weren't haunting her anymore. They were inspiring her, driving her forward, reminding her why the fight mattered. Real warriors weren't forged in silence and revealed in chaos. They were built through adversity, tested under fire, and defined by the lives they saved when everyone else had given up hope.